Hello and welcome back to Temple Woodturnings. I'm Steve. In this week's video I'm talking all about poetry. So poetry and writing to me is another form of release, I suppose. It's a way of getting stuff out of your head, and rather than shouting at someone or shouting at a wall, you can put it down in clever words on the page and get your emotion through a poem in other ways rather than what you actually want to say. And it's that process of finding a rhythm and moving the words around to make sense in the story that you're trying to write that helps you forget and get all the angst or the woes that you've got in your mind away, and you can just write it down. And then when you read it back, I know that sometimes when I read back some of the poetry that I've written, I'd get quite emotional because it's, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I suppose I kind of black out when I'm writing because it all just flows out, and then when I read it back it's like I'm talking to myself and I'm seeing it all actually written down. So it is good therapy. I've written all kinds of poetry, some humour, some clever artsy type poems, but the majority of my poems would have a storyline. You know, your typical story, beginning, middle and end, and it would tend to flow and get to a point at the end. I'm inspired by various different things with poetry. It could just be from seeing something, or it could be a story I hear, an emotion, smell, taste, all that kind of stuff. You know, anything can spark an inspiration for a poem. No more than an artistic piece or a picture or something like that. You're actually painting a picture with words, and that's kind of why I've put poetry to this project. To most, this is just another bowl. It's just another natural edged ash bowl that you see a million of them across the internet, and every wood turner eventually will do a natural edge bowl. But it was more the wood itself. When I cut this blank round and I started seeing all the natural figure in it, I just started thinking about ash trees and how pretty the wood is and how tough it is. And then there's also a story with this piece of wood. I got this piece of wood from the Maker meetup last year, and it was just really kindly gifted to us. The guy that owned the house, the Airbnb that we stayed in, just randomly come up and said, "Hey, I've got a load of firewood and a chainsaw if you want to cut this up, and you can all take some." And everybody that was able to carry wood ended up bringing wood home, and this is a piece of that wood. So it's kind of special in many ways, and I wanted to do it justice. And then I remembered that there was this, you know, the story of Odin and the world tree, and I just thought, hey, why not? Let's turn a bowl and and then I'll give you folks a taste of my poetry at the end. The ash tree is very prominent in Viking mythology. They called it the YGGDRASIL, I think that's how you pronounce it anyway, which meant world tree, the world tree. And it's said to have stood in the middle of an island, and its roots were supposed to go very deep into the underworld where a serpent would live, and then its canopy would cover across countries of the earth, or worlds. I think there's 9 worlds, and in that canopy there would be an eagle, and then between the two, the serpent and the eagle, there would be a squirrel running up and down the huge trunk of the tree, sending messages between evil and good, I suppose. The deer feeds off the leaves of the tree, and all the great rivers of the world are supposed to flow from the deer's antlers, and the goat grazes off the grass around the base of the tree and produce mead rather than milk, which would be given to the warriors in the great halls of the Vikings, or Odin's great hall as they called it, Odin being the god of Vikings. So that's me and poetry. I shall probably, depending on how well this one goes down, I mean, if you hate it, let me know. It might not be something that you're into. Poetry's a Marmite thing. It's either you love it or you hate it. That's the whole point of these new videos, is that I'm letting you know a little bit more about myself each time. And poetry's been quite a big part of my adult life, no more than the drawing was in my childhood. It all kind of ties in and makes me me. Also let me know in the comments if you write yourself, if you've written any stories, any books, if you know someone that's a writer or writes. I'd be interested to know if other people use writing as a form of either therapy or art or expression. So I'll say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'm delighted with all your comments, and I always appreciate you watching and taking part. I hope you enjoy the poem. It's called World Tree, or YGGDRASIL. Try saying that. I tell you, it's quite difficult. There is I think that's how you pronounce it. I did look it up to see how it's supposed to be said, and most would say yig, as in pig, the P missing, yig, dra, and then sil, so it's silk with the K missing, so it's YGGDRASIL. So World Tree, or YGGDRASIL. And this is my poem. Thanks everyone. Bye bye. World Tree, YGGDRASIL. Reach down and fill the earth. Grasp hold the darkest underworld with serpent-ravaged roots. Stretch high above the world beyond the heavens. Your sacred trunk and path to the squirrel, entwined as one with the mighty gods of thunder and Vikings. Spread vast boughs of burned ash bark, a shadowy shroud to all countries, worlds and gods' councils. Allow the deer, creator of the rivers, to feed upon your leaves, and the magical goat to feed the bellies of Odin's warriors, with mead from the sweetest grass, grazed from just your presence. Take not the life of Odin, as the ravens took his eye, but fill his mind with wisdom, knowledge, and power of the ruins. Cast out great spears forged from the grain of your soul into the hands of mortal men, gods, and Aisling, the mighty men of Ash.
Say you're leaving now, that don't mean a